Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the newspaper analysis under our Roznama series. Yesterday, significantly, the erstwhile Chief Minister of Delhi was released from prison, and also Manish Sisodia, who were charged under a false claim of money laundering and taking in money into their pockets by the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI. Now, all of those cases, they have been removed, and the Supreme Court has given them, has released them from prison. That is one thing that we have to keep in mind for today. That is, CBI and Enforcement Directorate have been, not only have they been pulled up by the Supreme Court, but also the AAP leader has been removed. Okay. So one thing for today is that Arvind Kejriwal has been released from prison. Second thing is that yesterday Pakistan and Afghanistan, apparently they have gotten into a full-fledged war. Okay, so these are two major things that we have to look into in detail today. And naturally, we have the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who has commenced his visit to India today. So he has landed in India, and he is scheduled to meet our leaders in India. So that is another thing that we have to keep an eye out for. Then naturally, certain other small pointers like the president undertaking a sortie in the Prachand aircraft. Other than that, we have the Prachand aircraft that is being undertaken. Then we have certain other articles, a wonderful one by Pratap Bhanu Mehta, which talks on realism and how in today's geopolitical scenario, realism is taking over other considerations in terms of international relations. A good article on the more alignment of money by the 16th Finance Commission to the urban local bodies. We have welcomed 8 new cheetahs from Botswana today, 28th of February, and now our total cheetah count in the country has risen to 46. Then the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, they've said that when we undertake transfer of judges to within the high courts, etc., then they must be sent to that respective high court much in advance, so that they can familiarize themselves in that respective sitting. All right, so these are some of the important things that we will be looking into in today's newspaper analysis. So without wasting much time, let us quickly begin with the first important one. Is that Pakistan has undertaken bombing of major Afghanistan cities like Kabul and Kandahar, and has declared an open war on Afghanistan. All right, now this entire clash or difference between Pakistan and Afghanistan can be traced back to their border, which is the Durand Line. Okay, we have the Durand Line, which serves as the international border between India and Pakistan. This particular Durand Line naturally was outlined during the British period by the British itself, and because of this particular Durand Line, you all can read about the Durand Line in this particular article. They've given it a wonderful, they've written it wonderfully. Now, this particular Durand Line was drawn between India and Afghanistan in 1893, and here the representatives were, or this line was particularly drawn by Mortimer Durand. Okay, so you have to keep his name in mind, Mortimer Durand. So this entire Durand Line is actually of 2,640 kilometers, and with India, Afghanistan shares only a very small border of around 106 kilometers. Okay, 106 kilometers, and that too, as of now, right now, it is directly connected with the POK region, and not as of now with a direct connection with India. Okay, so one dispute is the Durand Line. What is the dispute with Durand Line is that one thing that the Britishers used to do was that they would never go on land to demarcate these borders, whichever international border that the British have undertaken in India, be it the Ratcliffe Line, be it the McMahon Line, be it the Durand Line. The British geographers, surveyors, they never went down on land to do it. How did they do it? It was on map. They simply drew these outlines, these borders on maps, and then they would implement it in real life, or they would implement it in real time, in geospatial time. Okay. Now the problem with this was that when this particular Durand line was extended, the Durand line subsumed or went across two such regions. One was the Baluchistan and the other was Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region. Okay. And both of these regions, they have significant tribes who demand autonomy. Baluchistan also is demanding autonomy and independence from Pakistan, and so is the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region. So both of these have good, strong tribes, the Baluch tribes and the Pakhtun tribes, and both of them are demanding independence. Now, they were demanding independence, and it was believed that Afghanistan enabled the Baloch people as well as the Pakhtun people to wage war against the Pakistan government. So in retaliation to this issue, Pakistan undertook attacking in Afghanistan so that Afghanistan can't sponsor their separatist activities against Pakistan. This is one reason. The second one is that till the second Taliban government came into existence, that is Taliban 2.0. Okay, this happened in 2021. Till Taliban 2.0 came back, Pakistan had good relations with Taliban, and there was also a Pakistani Taliban that used to reside in Pakistan. And when the US led its entire operation in Afghanistan, then there was significant, major, important leaders of Taliban in Afghanistan that were actually living in Pakistan, and Pakistan was giving them shelter. But now, since the Taliban 2.0 came into existence, they have started voicing their opinions against the border disputes with Pakistan. And third thing happened, that this Taliban 2.0 is now pursuing independent policies on the basis of their strategic autonomy, which implies that they are also undertaking their independent policies with India. Although India has not given recognition to the Taliban government, but India has excuse me, but India has warmed up to Taliban 2.0 and has also held bilateral meetings with the top leaders of the Taliban government. All right. So against this background, naturally, the relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan are not nice and not warm, and now they are undertaking a full-fledged war. The war is right now going on, and there have been international countries like Russia and China who have asked Pakistan and Afghanistan to end their conflicts. Another thing that I want to flag here for you all is Operation Ghazab Lil Haq. Okay, Operation Ghazab Lil Haq. Why is this important? Is because this is the name of the operation under which or through which Pakistan is undertaking strikes and attacks on Afghanistan. Okay, so do go through all these articles. It is important. Then coming to the next piece of news, the next piece of news is that there are elections that are just scheduled to be undertaken on March 5th in Nepal, and this election is being held after last year's political upheaval, which was due to a massive protest by the Gen Z population of Nepal against the corrupt practices, nepotism, favoritism that was being undertaken in the government of Nepal. So that protest resulted in killing, or a lot of leaders, political leaders of Nepal, they lost their lives, and then an interim government was set up in Nepal under the first female the Prime Minister of Nepal, interim Prime Minister naturally, which is Sushila Karki. She was also the first female Chief Justice of Nepal, and now since last year, now there are going to be elections here, and they are the three top contenders for to become the next Prime Minister of Nepal. One is Balendra Shah, who is widely known as Balen, is seen as a front runner after emerging as a popular figure during that Gen Z protest or campaign. He was also elected as mayor of capital Kathmandu in 2022, and later he left this post to become the National Independent Party's candidate for PM. Then we have Gagan Thapa. He is the newly installed leader of Nepali Congress, which is also the country's oldest political party, and it is a liberal democratic party and also has close ties with India. And then third is naturally KP Sharma Oli, who was also previously the Prime Minister of Nepal, and he is a major communist leader. Naturally, he's a communist, so under his regime and government, Nepal has always had closer ties with China. Okay, so he was removed last year in this entire violent protests, but he is also standing up for elections and is one of the strong contenders there. All right, till 2008, do remember that Nepal was a monarchy, and after that they've transitioned towards a constitutional form of government. Okay, then another important news is that Arvind Kejriwal, the former chief minister, sitting chief minister of Delhi, he was taken into custody on charges of corruption in the Delhi excise policy. And along with him, there were 21 others and Manish Sisodia. So all of them are major leaders. They were arrested in a liquor scam case where it was believed that they had undertaken this entire liquor policy. And this liquor policy of 2021, what it actually sought to do was that it simply wanted to, you know, do away with a public-private ownership of all the liquor shops and basically wanted to privatize it. But then the policy was, as it is, done away with 1 or 2 years later, because a balance could not be maintained in terms of public-private partnership. But the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate, both of them caught hold of around 23 AAP leaders, took them into custody and flagged all of these charges of corruption against them. The Supreme Court discarded all of these charges, and there are wonderful articles where they have given an in-depth analysis into what were the charges and how were these charges actually removed. Okay, so make sure that you go through this particular Indian Express article. It is a good one that they've given in detail. The Supreme Court said that all of these charges that are actually put against them, they're all on circumstantial evidences. They're basically on assumptions. They don't have concrete evidences to solidify their entire charge. All right, so that is why they have been removed. Kejriwal role as apex controller built on a single witness statement. There was only a single witness statement, which naturally did not meet the required legal standard. Then the Supreme Court also said that the prosecution hasn't produced single recovery or financial trail linking Sisodia with allegedly transfer of funds. All right, so they basically pointed out that when you've said that these people are corrupt, they have taken in the government's money, they have taken the private players' money, etc., then you have to actually produce that money also. You have to collect that money to wherever, whichever pocket sources they have submitted that money to, and produce it before the court. But in putting them in behind bars, no recovery was made by the Enforcement Directorate or CBI. All right, just a little information. You have to get into the details of the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI. All right, so Enforcement Directorate is that one authority which specifically looks into cases of money laundering and foreign exchange. Okay, money laundering and foreign exchange for Enforcement Directorate. It was established in the year 1956, headquartered in New Delhi. All right, then naturally works on the laws of FEMA 1999, PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, and etc. Then CBI looks into high profile cases, economic offences, etc. Informally or pre-independently established in 1941, then given a concrete structure in 1963 on the recommendations of the Santhanam Commission. Okay, do go through it, important. Okay, all right, then Vayu Shakti was an Indian Air Force exercise which successfully concluded. Do keep it in mind. And we have President Draupadi Murmu, who undertook a sortie in the Prachand Light Combat Helicopter of India. Okay, so do keep both of these in mind, Vayu Shakti and Prachand. Okay, important. All right, then Prime Minister Kani lands in Mumbai. He's here in Mumbai. He's here in India for a 4-day visit. This particular visit is important because firstly, in the tenure of the previous Prime Minister of Canada, which is Justin Trudeau, the relations between India and Canada went downhill because he had alleged that Indian government had played a significant role in the killing of a separatist Khalistani leader in Canada, which India outrightly denied, saying that India is not such a country who undertakes such things, plots, plans, and undertakes murdering of somebody on international grounds. So after that, the top leadership of Canada is visiting India. So naturally, this shows that there is warming of relations. Then again, this comes after the WEF World Economic Forum's Davos Summit, where Mark Carney had specifically talked about things that all countries, they should work along principles of strategic autonomy for their own respective benefits, and their foreign policies or economic policies must not align with that of major powers like United States of America. And this came to be known as the Carney Doctrine. And working on his own principles, he is out to strike deals independently with other major growing developing countries of the world, one of them being India. And then also he is set to visit the other two Quad countries, Australia and Japan. All right. Therefore, he is trying to build Canada's independent, strong ties with major countries of the world who also have ties with the United States of America. All right. So they will be talking about all of these major things like uranium, that is on critical minerals, and artificial intelligence. Okay. Then today we got 8 new cheetahs from Botswana. Botswana is the 3rd country with whom India has signed a memorandum of understanding to translocate cheetahs. And this translocation of cheetahs is actually the world's largest translocation ever taken place. Botswana is the 3rd country, the 1st and the 2nd being Namibia and South Africa, which was signed in 2022 along with the launch of Project Cheetah. The cheetahs became extinct in India in 1952, and now since 2022, India is trying to bring back or reintroduce cheetahs into India. So we have various female cheetahs who've given birth to offspring. The first one was Mukhi, then we had Asha last month. This month we've had Gamini, who's given birth to, and now we have with Gamini giving birth to 3 new cubs, the total count of cheetahs in the country went up till 38, and now with 8 more coming in, now our cheetah count is 46. All right. And where have they come? They've been introduced to the Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh, which is the first national park in the country where cheetahs have been introduced. The second one is now being built in the Gandhi Sagar, and the third one has also been proposed, which is in Noradehi. Okay. So all this is important. Do keep in mind. All right. Then the Supreme Court has also given a verdict on the Shanti Act. What is the Shanti Act? The Shanti Act is for sustainable harnessing and advancement of nuclear energy for transforming India Act of 2025. This comes in the backdrop of India's target of harnessing 100 gigawatt of nuclear energy by 2047 in its aim to become a developed country by 2047, and also to get or achieve net zero carbon emission target by 2070. This target has been set under the National Nuclear Mission of 2025, where the government has also aligned 20,000 crores of rupees. All right. Now, just to bring forward that entire proposal that India had put in last year through the National Nuclear Mission, India has brought in the Shanti Act. What does the Shanti Act actually propose, or what is the major change that the government is trying to bring forth with the Shanti Act in the nuclear sector? Is that this particular sector, which is strategically very, very important, and it is very sensitive also. It is a very volatile sector that if not handled with care, then everybody knows that nuclear energy can, release or release of nuclear energy, etc., if not handled well, can result in catastrophic after effects like deaths of a large number of people, which we've seen in India through the Bhopal gas tragedy of 1984, otherwise also Chernobyl incident, and we can never forget the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings of Japan. So through the Shanti Act, the government just wants to make the nuclear sector more efficient, and in order to do so, it is inviting privatization into the nuclear sector. Now, when you are inviting privatization, naturally, you also have to encourage better liability clauses in case there is any mishap that happens. Okay. So this particular Shanti Act it caps the liability of the largest plant operator in India at a mere 3,000 crore of rupees, which is approximately $331 million. And this $331 million is a mere less than 0.1% of the cost of damage that was caused by accidents at Chernobyl in Ukraine and Fukushima in Japan. All right. So this entire liability clause that the government through the Shanti Bill is going to put on private players is actually very, very less. And this is what is a major concern that the Supreme Court has actually highlighted and has prompted the government to strike a balance as to the effective use harnessing of the nuclear energy in the country. Okay. So do keep this in mind. It is important. Then prospective chief justices to get early transfer is what is proposed by the Chief Justice of India, Surya Kant. He said that when we are undertaking transfer of judges from one high court to another, a judge must be released much before or at an earlier date than his actual scheduled release, so that he can go there, get a hang of the court premises, how things are there, etc. Okay, so keep this in mind. Then coming to the editorials for today, this particular editorial written by Pratap Bhanu Mehta talks about two things. One is realism and one is power. Okay, so when we look at realism, realism simply implies a way of thinking or acting based on facts. Facts in the sense, things that we can see, things that are right in front of us in the open, and not on hopes. It is based on facts and it is not based on hopes or thinking that this must be happening, etc., etc. All right. Now, this is what realism means. But now, in today's world, realism has become power. Power has become the truth of everything, meaning that anybody can undertake or do anything in the country and justify it as that this is what had to be done. We had no other choice. That morality, humanity, etc. can take a backseat now in the present times under the ambit of realism, where power is considered as equivalent of truth. All right. And this entire idea he has taken from a book known as The Captive Mind by Shelzo Milos. And Shelzo Milos has given an idea of the Marty Bing pill. Okay. In this entire article, he has talked about Marty Bing. Marty Bing is a concept which represents the adoption of a totalitarian idea or totalitarianism. Okay, totalitarianism meaning too much centralization of power in one hand, too much authorization, totalitarian authoritativeness, synonymous to a dictatorial regime. Okay. So he draws this and he is given multiple, ideas here that in international relations, whenever the regime whatever the regime does is christened as realist. Submitting to American primacy, considered as realist. Stand up to China, realist. Engage China, realist. Buy oil from Russia, realist. Stop buying oil, realist. In the sense that everything can be justified because the person who is in power is doing so. If somebody else is doing so, for example, the opposition is doing so, it will be considered as a negative thing. But so long somebody in power is doing so, it can be justified with any XYZ reason. So power becomes truth in realism. Okay. So this is what the article talks about. You can go through it for a better understanding. Okay. Then this article comes in light or brings in light the entire quashing of the word corruption in judiciary that was used in NCERT of class 8, which has been directed by the Supreme Court to be removed, and the NCERT authority has called back all the publications that were distributed which did call the judiciary as corrupt. All right. So the article begins on a very good note. It does say that the Supreme Court has undertaken this entire, suo moto on its own, because naturally when such things are printed in books, so it does shape the minds of the young people, and then inflicting or imbibing such negative thoughts in today's younger generations can negatively impact the working of the governmental organs. So it is a good thing that the judiciary did step up and undertook scrapping of such an idea, just to portray that all organs of the government work for the welfare of the people itself. But then the article draws a wonderful contrast, saying that when things were pointed towards the judiciary, then the judiciary did step in to save its dignity. But there have been instances like the Mughal history being distorted, like the Godhra riots, previously called as anti-Muslim riots, have also been removed and renamed as Gujarat riots in class 12 NCRTs. And a lot of removal of Mughal history, praising of Marathas by degrading of the Mughal rulers. It actually portrays a very skewed image in today's children's young mind. What we must always try to teach is that whatever be the history of any particular country, history is meant to be read. History is meant to be studied as history, something that happened in the past, which must not be repeated in the future. It can't be undertaken to imbibe ideas in children's heads onto this particular fact, or believing into this particular fact, that because something happened with one particular community 500, 600 years back, then people belonging to that particular community today must be punished for it. This is what portrays or puts in a negative idea in the young children today. We must always, the article further moves on to say that we must always try to fill in ideas of fraternity, humanity, brotherhood, oneness, secularism, etc. in the country, and not to distort it. Okay, so again, good article, go through it. Okay, then international law is not dead, its rules stay resilient. All right, so this particular article basically talks about international law under the United Nations, specifically Article 2.4 of the United Nations Charter, which simply says which simply talks about prohibition on the threat or use of force in international relations, simply implying that no country is going to use force, going to use armaments, violence, etc. against any other country. Always dialogue, diplomacy must be used to undertake, settling of disputes, differences between any two countries, just to foster peaceful relations internationally, just to preserve international peaceful global order. But today, as you all can see, that there are innumerable wars that are being undertaken in the country, and we have the United States of America itself, which is undertaking such armed conflicts in different countries, who was actually that one country who had brought up this United Nations Charter. So the article draws to irony of the United Nations Charter and how it is being misused today. And then this article, a wonderful one, talks about that how a large number of money has been allotted to the urban local bodies through the 16th Finance Commission, which is actually much, much higher than the 15th one, the 14th one. And the last time such a major allotment of money that was done to the urban local bodies was through the 10th Finance Commission. Okay, go through this article. Then again, a wonderful take on the entire fiasco between the CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, the Enforcement Directorate, and how it was seen that all of this case was actually a staged case. It was a falsely made up case. There was no basic evidence. It was absolutely based on assumption and only done maybe out of political spite. An article on the Taliban attacks. So this is the Durand line, and Afghanistan does not give recognition to Durand line, and there have been continuous conflicts with respect to the Durand line. So again, a good understanding into the article. Pakistan's operation Ghazab-ul-Haq is also mentioned in it. Then coming to news in brief and terminologies for today. Anthropic is a firm in the United States of America. It is an artificial intelligence firm which is headed by Dario Amodei, and he has said that Pentagon, which is actually the main office of the United States administrative structure, Pentagon has demanded that Anthropic should allow the country of the US officials basically unrestricted use of its technology, which he has said that they will not let the United States of America to do so. Okay. Then a new INS Anjadeep has been commissioned into the Indian Navy. This is an anti-submarine warship, and this was made by Garden Reed Shipbuilders and Engineers in Kolkata, and this is the third one. Okay, and this has been undertaken under India's vision of Make in India and Create in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Okay, so do keep in mind INS Anjadeep. All right, this was all for today's newspaper analysis. 2-3 major things: India, Pakistan, Afghanistan war, CBI and ED's case has been done away with. 2 things very importantly that you must keep in mind. Then today, naturally, we did see in real time that Israel and US, they've undertaken an attack again on Iran. So this is one thing that we must be looking out for tomorrow's analysis. Okay, so I'll see you all tomorrow. Till then, happy learning. Thank you.